This month's episode of the QA is brought to you by Rainier Arms. Hey guys, my name is Dave Tim. Thank you very much for checking out another episode of the QA for Guns and Tactics. It is the February 2018 edition of the QA, and we did take a couple of months off. Number one, we had SHOT Show last month, which got super hectic for us. We made a ton of videos from SHOT Show. So I think we made 40 videos total from SHOT Show covering cool new stuff, visiting with some regulars, seeing some cool new companies, cool new products. So if you haven't checked out our SHOT Show coverage, we have a playlist on our YouTube channel. So we'll put a link for that on the video description for YouTube. Otherwise, if you're watching this on Facebook, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel and find the SHOT Show 2018 playlist. And then in December, we just didn't get a ton of questions. And then with the holidays, I thought I would just kind of keep bulking up with the questions so we'd have another good episode when we did come back. So we are back for the 2018 first QA of the year, which is February again. And as always, please submit your questions. The best way to get them to us is to email us. You can email us at theqa@gunsandtactics.com. We will put the email address on the screen. It'll also be in the description below. Or you can send us a message through YouTube, Facebook, social media outlets, or leave a comment, and I will do my best to try to see those comments and add them to our QA. And just make sure you use hashtag #TheQA. So let's get right to it. We got a good amount of questions in store here. So first one is from Ike. Ike has asked questions before. If you were building an SBR/pistol AR to be suppressed, is it a good or bad idea to figure the handguard to extend over the silencer? Obviously, diameters would need to be taken into account. So with that, there are some handguards on the market. There are, Midwest makes some of the other companies makes ones, but Midwest is the one offhand because I did an installation video for them. So I do have a business relationship with Midwest, so I'm not getting paid to promote their product, but they do have a handguard that is a larger diameter that is designed to go over a suppressor. So if you want to shoot, an SBR or pistol AR with a 10 or 11 inch barrel and then have a suppressor, and you're always going to run that suppressor, there are some advantages to having the handguard extend past the suppressor. Number one, it can help protect the suppressor. Number two, it can help regulate heat a little bit. Number three, it can have a longer sight radius. Number four, you can have more room for mounting accessories where you want them. So those are the benefits. The downside is, depending on what muzzle device is on there, when you take the suppressor off, it might cause some issues on the inside of that handguard. So that's something to consider. Additionally, the diameter of those handguards, it does get bigger, and some people find that not as comfortable. So something to consider there. But, pros, cons, those are kind of in the short, condensed version, those are kind of the pros and cons. And then on top of that, you do have to make sure that the diameter handguard you're getting can for sure take the suppressor. So my main SBR, I personally run with the handguard that goes up to the muzzle device. I don't have it extend because oftentimes I'm not shooting suppressed. So I don't know, that's kind of my opinion, but I do think it's cool if you're gonna basically leave a can, if you're gonna marry a can to a gun, having that handguard extend over the suppressor is kind of a cool idea, mainly for the pros that I listed previously. So, good, bad idea, ultimately it's up to you, but hopefully that helps a little bit. From Quentin, who has also asked questions before, do these wear marks on a used Glock 22 concern you? And he sent me a few pictures of some wear on the inside of a slide of a 40 cal used Glock 22, and I'll show those pictures on the video. So basically, no, they don't concern me because it happens on pretty much every used Glock 22 with a decent amount of rounds through it. You see wear marks similar to that. And basically what happened with the Glock 40 in particular is that gun was based on a 9mm frame, a 9mm slide. And then when the 40 came along, which is obviously higher pressure and more energy than the 9mm, certain things started to happen. And I think you have a Gen 3 here is what it looks like. Gen 3 or Gen 2, but I'm guessing it's a Gen 3. So what happened, the Gen 3 Glock 22 40 cal was known for some issues, mainly because the frame would flex, especially when you added a light to it or things like that. And that's why there were so many different upgrades to followers and mag springs and recoil springs and all sorts of stuff that eventually happened with the Gen 4, and there's fixes, but I wouldn't worry about those wear marks. They're just kind of normal wear marks for a Glock Gen 3 40 cal. Just move on. If they start to become really big burrs or whatever, you could file the burrs down, so that way it's just kind of the gouge there. But I would just rock on, keep shooting it. It's all good. Don't worry about it. It's one of the things that happens with with Glock 40s of Gen 3. All right, now this next one, this is a multi-part question. First AR build, working on parts for 300 Blackout Pistol, primarily for deer hunting and secondary home defense. I'd like to SBR it in the future, but for now it's going to be a pistol. Not sure if QD or thread on is best for a suppressor and what length handguard. The idea of hiding the can, this kind of goes back to that first question. So definitely plays a part. And dead air, maybe a can for the user here. So I like QD suppressors just because, number one, a good, like dead air, I don't have any relationship or anything with dead air, but I personally think that dead air, Surefire, those are probably the two best quick detach rock solid mounts on there. Silencer Co isn't bad, Griffin isn't bad, you know, there's other good ones too, but I just personally, for me, my experience and what I've seen, I think the two best are dead air and Surefire, just for having rock solid QD mounts. Now, especially if you're going to put it underneath the handguard, trying to line that up with a direct thread might be troublesome, and you could risk damaging those threads. Is it probable? Yeah. Is it possible? Yeah, but how much? Whatever. You have to weigh those, you know, pros and cons. But I like having the QD. Additionally, you can easily take that can and run it on other guns, so you're not just married to that or whatever, which, believe it or not, a lot of times I see guys with the direct thread, they kind of keep that one can to that one gun, but I like the QD from Dead Air. So as far as the handguard, I guess it kind of goes back to the first question up there. There is heat issues, you know, yep, for sure. But yeah, I like the Dead Air Sandman series because I can use them on a bunch of different guns. So my Dead Air Sandman K, I pretty much have dedicated as a 5.56 can. I put the 5.56 end cap on it, and it's pretty much all I run for 5.56. My Dead Air Sandman S, I usually run for 5.56, but I did leave the 30 cal cap, front cap on it. But I have been known to run that on my 308 ARs as well. And then my Sandman L, I do keep generally for my 308s. But what's nice is that I can swap them back and forth because of the muzzle device. You know, as long as I make sure that the bullet will make it through the hole at the end, I like that because I can use it however I see fit. So if I really wanted to quiet down my 223, which again, they don't get super quiet because they're supersonic, I could put that Sandman L on there, no problem. So that's you know, one of the things I like. Another question. Based on one of your previous QA videos, I'm looking at getting a superlative arms adjustable gas block bleed off. Does bearing that a few inches in the handguard cause any concern? Also, my current lower has an H1 buffer. Do you think that should be heavier, or should I try it and find out? Well, with the buffer, try it and find out, but when you start shooting suppressed, you're gonna add dwell time, so you might wanna increase that a little bit to an H2 or maybe a different spring system or whatever. I just built, I'll do another video on it, but I just built a gun that was kind of meant to be suppressed a lot of the time, and I'm running the Geisley 42 spring and buffer system in that, and I actually really like it, so that's something that's on the market that's kind of cool. And then as far as putting the bleed off gas block underneath the handguard, on one of my 3-gun rifles, I have that same gas block underneath my handguard. No real issues. It does bleed off, so it's going to get some carbon fouling and some dirt, you know, on the barrel underneath the handguard. Doesn't bother me. If it bothers you, yeah, you might have to pop the handguard off every now and again to clean it, but really no issues with that. It doesn't bother me. And also, I have not noticed when I have my hand out there, either near or close to the gas block, I haven't noticed any bleed off that affects my shooting grip or causes me discomfort or anything like that. So I don't have any issues. I do like that. However, the other gas block that is on the market that I'm really, really interested in trying out is the Seekins Precision new gas block that has the lever. I did a video on it at SHOT Show, and the main reason why I like that is because it is a toolless system. With the superlative, you kind of set it and forget it, and it works pretty good, don't get me wrong. I actually am happy with it for my 3-gun rifle, but if I was knowingly gonna, you know, go from suppressed to non-suppressed or whatever, this new Seekins one has a lot of promise for me. So I'm looking forward to get my hands on a couple of those soon so I can actually start to run them and give you guys some real world feedback. But I know Seekins to make good stuff, and I'm looking forward, you know, to definitely checking out that gas block because I think it has a lot of potential. All right, this will be my first foray into NFA. Would you suggest purchasing as an individual or setting up a trust with current regulations? I've been hearing that individuals are shorter, but I'm concerned about the legality of a loved one. Perhaps, I believe some are purchasing an individual and then later doing the trust. Well, here's the thing. I wouldn't purchase individually knowing that you're eventually going to transfer it to a trust, because that's another $200 that in my opinion, you don't need to donate to the government. I'm not a big fan of how the whole NFA system as it is. I do think that it's an unjust tax. You're lawfully allowed to own it, but yet you have to pay this $200 tax. It is what it is. I hope the Hearing Protection Act would ever pass, but I'm not holding my breath anymore. So here's what I would recommend. If you know that you are going to want multiple people to potentially have access to this, i.e. your wife, maybe your children down the road or whatever, just get a trust. Additionally, not only does the trust give people in your life currently access to the items, you can also do some estate planning with a good trust. And in my opinion, that's very important. And it wasn't important to me initially when I started my NFA game, just because it was me and I just had some stuff. But now that I have a family, I have a wife, kids, I'm starting to think about what if something happens to me. I'm using a trust as not only a tool to allow people to use my stuff, I can add trustees as needed or remove them as needed, but I'm also using it as an estate planning tool. So find a good lawyer or a good service in your state and definitely set up a trust. And I would say just go with the trust right away. And yes, it does kind of suck because you have to have all the responsible persons on the trust right away, submit fingerprints and photos, but you have it and it's done and you'll just go through it. And then again, they can have access to it. There's no issues if you're not home and they have access to it for whatever reason. So they don't have to worry about any legal issues with that. Plus you have the estate planning option. So I would go with the trust. And as far as the times, it's getting better, but everything is still kind of slow. So just, let's just say it adds another month or two. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Also, if you use a cool local dealer who will let you try or use it while it's in jail, maybe at classes or something, that's always a good thing too. All right. And that is it for that question series here. All right. Here is one here from YouTube comment, Karasu357. I've been considering a 12.5-inch BCM upper as a suppressor host. I currently have an 11.5-inch, but based on my limited research, it seems the 12.5 may perform slightly better. I know many people are running 11.5 or less trouble-free. So, yeah, 12.5 is just going to give you a little bit more dwell time than the 11.5. I run an 11.5. I run a 10.5. They all run great. No issues. I also have a 13.7, which is pinned and welded. Again, I'm going to do a video on that gun coming up soon. I call it the Sweet 16 because I pinned and welded devices, so it's right at sweet 16 inches. No NFA. However, if you currently have an 11.5 and it runs good, I would just run that as a suppressor host. Here's the thing that you have to realize, that a lot of the QD mounts on there are a good 2 inches plus, so you're adding that. So by the time you have a 12.5 and you add another 2.5 inches to that, now you're at 15 inches. You're not getting that far away from a 16-inch or a 14.5 inch with a pin and weld or whatever. Now granted, there's some pros and cons with pinning and welding, but if you have an 11.5 inch and it runs good, no problem. If you have if you want to get a 12.5, go for it. It's going to give you a little bit more velocity, a little bit more dwell time, assuming you keep the same gas system, and I think it won't give you any issues. So before we answer the rest of our questions, we are going to give a little shout out to our sponsor, which is Rainier Arms. And if you guys like shopping for all the cool stuff for your ARs, your Glocks, and your other firearms, check out Rainier Arms. They also have an amazing program called the Apex program, which is kind of like your favorite online Prime deal and big box store discount prices all into one, but for your favorite firearms parts. So for one low yearly fee of $79, you can join the Apex Club. That gives you free ground shipping on all of your orders, plus an exclusive discount and early availability on cool new stuff that is exclusive to Rainier Arms, plus all the other cool stuff that Rainier Arms always carries. Rainier Arms is one of my favorite dealers. They carry a lot of really cool stuff. They carry the new, great stuff, and they have good relationships in the industry, so they have things available. Plus, with the Apex program, you get a discount and free ground shipping, which could easily pay for the cost of membership in your first few orders, depending on how much stuff you buy. So make sure you check out rainierarms.com/Apex. We'll put a link down below so you can join the Apex Club. And this month, they are awesome and giving away a set of night sights from Night Vision. Night Vision is kind of a newer company to the market, but they're making quality tritium night sights for most modern handguns. And the winner for this month's QA is going to receive a night sight set of sights from Night Vision, courtesy of our sponsor, Rainier Arms. All right, right back to it. This is a question from Omar Vera via YouTube from our gas system and buffer basics. Very informative video. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Appreciate it. I have a question. I bought a lightweight bolt carrier and I have a mid-length gas system with a mil-spec buffer. Haven't changed anything and it's not cycling rounds. I mean, I shoot one round and it gets jammed. What can I do? Well, obviously we know what the cause is. If you put the lightweight carrier in and then it causes issues, you know it's something with the carrier. Now, is it a cyclic rate issue? Could be. So I don't necessarily know what jams means. Is it fail to extract, fail to eject, fail to feed? What's it doing? Additionally, there could be an obstruction in the gas key or a loose gas key or a leaking gas key if it's not cycling. So we know it's something with that carrier. You have to start to troubleshoot it. So check the gas key, make sure it's free of obstructions, make sure it's secure, make sure you don't see any carbon or leaking around the gas key so it's sealed properly, because if it's not sealed properly, or if there's a leak or whatever, or it's loose, the gas is not going to cycle the firearm and therefore you could have cycling issues. Additionally, you could have changed your cyclic rate. So if you haven't changed anything else except for the carrier, obviously you know that the carrier is the culprit somewhere in there. Now, a good test is to load one round in the magazine, fire. Does the bolt lock back to the rear? If yes, okay, it's functioning. If no, then it's probably not getting enough gas to cause the carrier to move all the way back to the rear to catch the bolt catch with the empty mag and lock the bolt back to the rear. In some rare cases, it's actually overgassed where the carrier's traveling too fast and it doesn't pause enough, giving it enough time for the bolt catch. That's pretty rare, but it could happen because we are lightening the carrier with the same amount of energy. Also, I don't know what kind of ammo you're using, but sometimes ammo is a culprit as well. But if it passes the 1 round test, then put 2 rounds in, same thing, 3 rounds in, same thing, and you can kind of go from there. I would need a little bit more information to troubleshoot that. All right, next question is from Mike. What was your favorite thing you saw at SHOT Show? For me, honestly, it was some of the scopes. I'm a big scope guy, and I like scopes, but the new Leupold Mark V, the Night Force 1-8s look really cool. I didn't get to check out the Collis 3-18. I wish I could have. Same thing with the US Optics new 1-6. I wish I could have checked that out. And Steiner had a new 1-6, and I wish I could have checked that out, but we just didn't have enough time. But Mike, some of those scopes look really cool. I'm just kind of an optics guy. I think that's kind of neat. Otherwise, a lot of the stuff that we did videos on was really cool. Victos had some really cool new clothing. Geisley had some new stuff. You know, the knives I got to play with were actually pretty cool. They're, you know, not necessarily new, but some of the new lights from Surefire looked really good. Again, that gas block from Seekins looked really cool. The Magpul chassis looked awesome. So the suppressor cover, if they come out with one that's compatible with the Dead Air, I'll be sure to be picking one of those up. So there was all sorts of cool stuff, but the atmosphere of the show was really cool too. So that's what I liked about SHOT Show 2018. All right, next question from Renee. First focal plane or second focal plane? It depends, man. It really depends. Generally speaking, with a 1-4, maybe even a 1-6 scope, probably 1-6, I like second focal plane, which means the reticle stays the same size, because in reality, with a 1-4, a 1-5, a 1-6 type scope, I'm not using the reticle for its ranging capabilities unless I'm maxed out anyway, whether it be 3-gun or patrol or whatever. If I need to use that reticle to range, I'm going to crank it all the way up. Well, actually, I have one right here, actually. So here's a 1-6, and generally I'm not going to use that reticle unless I'm at 6 power for ranging. I don't really care about what the marks mean unless I'm at that 6 power. So for like a 1-6 scope like this, I like a second focal plane. First focal plane means that as you zoom in, the reticle also zooms in, so the scale stays the same. So if we have that reticle up and we are ranging a guy and he's 3 mils tall, no matter where we zoom in, that reticle moves with the image, so the guy is always 3 mils tall, if that makes sense. And for a 1-8 scope, initially when I reviewed the Trijicon 1-8, now I've since played with a few more 1-8s, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know, I wish that would have been a second focal plane scope. But now playing with the 1-8s, it's kind of cool that if I get to that 4 power, 5 power, 6 power, 7 power, 8 power, that reticle is accurate where I'm at. That's pretty awesome. And with some of the new reticles, particularly the ones from Night Force, when you're at 1, 2, 3, 4, it just kind of looks like a red dot. And then when I get to that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, now I can actually use those ranging capabilities and it's accurate. So for 1-8s, I'm kind of liking a first focal plane scope. And then with larger scopes like 5-25s or 4-20 whatever, 5-20 whatevers, I really do prefer a first focal plane scope, because that way no matter where I'm at, generally with those type of scopes, I'm going to be putting it on more of a precision rig. So I'd like that. So that's kind of my it depends answer for that. So good question, really good question. And on that topic, Terry, I don't know if you're a guy or a girl, Terry, I apologize, but Terry wants to know my preference single stage or double stage trigger for AR? I'm assuming is what you're asking. It depends. Again, generally for like my SBRs, general patrol rifles or whatever, I do just still like a nice clean single stage trigger that breaks at right around that 4 to 5 pounds. I just like that, or like a MPX or MCX or stuff like that. Although I do have a Geisley 2-stage coming for my MCX, which I'm pretty pumped about. But single stage trigger doesn't bother me. And in fact, those that know me a while know that I really, really, really liked single stage triggers a lot. And it took me a while to come around to a 2-stage trigger. Now, for precision guns, 16-inch guns, that I have a magnified optic on, or a patrol rifle that I might, want to be a little more precise with, I really do prefer a 2-stage trigger. So I don't have a strong preference either way. If it's an SBR, a go-fast gun, or a 3-gun rifle or whatever, I like a single stage. But for general work duty, I like a good quality 2-stage. CMC, Geisley are pretty much my 2 go-to, although the LaRue 2-stage trigger is a pretty nice trigger as well. The only thing I didn't like about the LaRue is the face of it is kind of sharp, whereas a traditional M4 kind of has some curvature to it. Personal preference, but that's just me. But those are all good quality 2-stage AR triggers. The new Geisley SSP, which is a single-stage trigger, felt amazing at SHOT Show, and I can't wait to get my hands on that. As soon as I get one of those, I'm throwing that in either my Sweet 16 gun or my SBR, and I'm going to rock the heck out of that thing, because that just did feel like a really, really nice trigger. But I like 2-stage triggers because I can take up that first stage, hit the wall, and then make my shot with a lighter second stage. So kind of my preference with that. All right, let's see if we have one last question from Jared, wanting to know what my favorite Glock accessory is. A good set of sights, in all honesty. If I had to pick just one Glock accessory, assuming this is a stock Glock out of the box, I would upgrade the sights for sure to a set of cap sights or some other high-vis sight. Now, let's just say the gun came with good sights, which they don't, but they should. Then the red dots are cool. A good light is cool. As far as a favorite Glock accessory, though, I do a mod to mine where I stipple them and add a beaver tail, so I guess you could consider that an accessory. I put a minus connector in. That could be considered an accessory. However, the one thing that I do like to do, which is not really an accessory, it's more of an enhancement to my Glocks, is front cocking serrations. I am 100% firm believer in front serrations on a fighting handgun. That's just how I choose to manipulate my gun. So if I had to pick one thing, I could only do one. For sure it would be sights, because you need a good set of sights. Red dot maybe 2. But if after that, if I could kind of build it up, I would for sure do front serrations. So some awesome questions for this month. And now let's see who is going to be winning a set of night sights from Night Vision, courtesy of our sponsor, Rainier Arms. Let's do our random number generator. And we have number 4, which was one of Ike's questions. So Ike, you are the winner of a set of night sights courtesy of Rainier Arms from Night Vision. So Ike, I have your email address here because you email in your questions. I'll be in touch to get you set up with some sights. And again, guys, you could be the lucky winner. We give one lucky question asker a prize every month thanks to our sponsor, Rainier Arms. Check out the Apex Club. Also, email us your question, theqa@gunsandtactics.com, or you can leave a comment below, or you can message us on any one of your social media platforms. Thank you guys very much for helping out with some good questions. We look forward to next month having even more questions and doing us a solid by asking questions so we can do you a solid by answering those questions. We certainly appreciate it, and we sincerely thank you for watching. Make sure you're following us on social media and check out our webpage, gunsandtactics.com. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.